De-energizing a building is the job of power company employees. They have the tools and skills to do it safely and with certainty. Report the emergency using the unpublished emergency number and explain the situation for priority response. Inside a building, you may find it necessary to flip the main switch, but if you do, remember that this only de-energizes the line that feeds through that switch. Other sources of electricity, such as a second switch, may still be present. Also, wires that feed the switch outside the building may still be energized. Never, under any circumstances, should you yank the meter out of its socket in an attempt to disconnect power. The meter is a measuring device. It is not a switch, and should not be used as one. If you try to use it that way, you are putting yourself into serious danger of flash burns. If flipping the main switch does not de-energize the building, then AEP asks that you wait for authorized utility personnel to arrive and disconnect the power. Do not pull any meters because of the possibility of explosion at close range. Do not cut any wires. Energized wires may arc, causing a fireball. In addition to suffering flash burns, the force can knock you to the ground, causing serious injury. However, in the event that you are faced with an emergency life or death situation and the person in charge chooses to act contrary to this recommendation and attempts to disconnect the service, you should be aware that properly cutting the drip loop, which is found on overhead services only, generally poses less risk than pulling the meter. Such action should be taken only if you have been properly trained to complete the procedure. Watching this video does not constitute proper training, and only if you have the right equipment, properly maintained, insulated, hot stick wire cutters, and safety goggles or glasses. All equipment should be designed and approved for such activity. Even so, cutting the drip loop should be done only as a last resort. While AEP does not recommend that you cut the drip loop, this is the procedure most utility employees use. If two wires are covered and one is bare, the covered wires are cut first, one at a time. If all wires look the same, they are cut in any order, one at a time. In either case, the cut ends of the wires are spread apart to prevent them from touching one another. If the building has underground service, the only way it can be de-energized other than at the main switch is by authorized utility employees. Because of substantial risk, emergency responders are not authorized to use meters, meter sockets, and metering installations as load interrupters in electrical disconnects. If they do so, it is without the authorization of American Electric Power and its subsidiary companies and against the recommendation of the company. It is always recommended that you wait for qualified utility employees to disconnect the electric service. De-energizing a building. Once again, it's time to review. True or false? Removing or pulling the meter from its base always disconnects the electric power. The answer is false. Depending on the installation, power still could be supplied from another source. True or false? A meter is not a switch. This is true. A meter is a measuring device and is not to be used as a switch. True or false? In a life or death situation, any cutting tool can be used to cut the drip loop. The answer is false. Only tools that are properly insulated, maintained, inspected, and tested and used by trained individuals may be used to cut a drip loop.